He kept asking me, and I regret replying. I keep telling myself I should have blocked him earlier. Most of the time, I ignore strangers who slide into my messages with demands right from the start, but he was different. He was not rude in any way, just persistent in that slow drip way that eventually wears you down. He always asked for the same thing, a new story, no payment, no reason. Just a needy little message every other day at first, then every day, then every few hours. At the start, I didn't answer. He would send a waving hand emoji followed by a sentence like a child making a wish. "Write me a scarecrow story," he asked. I let a week go by, then 2. He kept asking. Then one night, he wrote something new. "I need it tonight. Please. He's in the field." I stared at that for a while. I typed and erased 2 replies. Anyone who'd think I should have blocked him and moved on. I thought the same, but then curiosity won. I sent back a question. "What field?" He answered in seconds. "Behind my house. There's a small field. I can see him from the kitchen if I stand on the chair." I asked who he meant. The scarecrow. He comes when I stop reading about him. That is why I ask people to write. If I keep reading, he does not move." I told him to cut it out. I said it wasn't funny. He sent a photo taken through a window. It was hard to see anything but the blur of the yard light and the night beyond it. In the middle of the dark was a shape that could have been a person or a bundle of sticks. The head looked round and odd. I could make out a hat that sat a little too low. He kept writing. "If I scroll long enough, or if someone writes, it pushes him back. Even one sentence helps. It's like he needs to be told away." I wanted to prove to myself that he was playing a simple trick, so I did the dumbest thing and played along. I tapped 4 sentences on my phone. They were nothing. "The scarecrow in the old field watches crows and weather. The wind pulls at his straw, and the rope on his wrists rubs a groove onto the post. He cannot step down because he was built to hold still. He turns his head only when no one is looking." I hit send, and he replied with relief like I had just thrown him a rope. "Thank you." He stepped back towards the trees. "It works when someone else writes it. Mine do not work on him anymore." The way he wrote that caught my attention. It sounded real. Not that I believed him, but the timings on those messages felt like he was exhausted. I told him he should call someone, a friend or a neighbor, the police if he really felt threatened. "I called them before. They came in the day and they laughed. My neighbor said it was a prank, but there are no kids near here. I do not know who would make him move at night." He kept asking, another paragraph, then another. He started to beg in small words, a bit annoying, but I felt strange sympathy. The next night, he sent a voice message. I turned my volume down and listened. There were slow creaks like old wood, and a dry rustle that sounded like someone dragging a broom across a porch, and something that might have been a breath through cloth, then his whisper. Please write now, please." I wrote again. I told myself I was just helping a stranger calm down. I wrote a few lines about the scarecrow staying tangled on his post while the stars turned. I sent it. He told me it helped. I tried to sleep and keep thinking about the broom sounds. After that, he shifted from annoying to urgent. He timed his messages to my evenings. He watched for the little typing bubble. If it took too long, he would push again. He's closer. I can see the stitches in the sack now." I asked for another photo. He sent one from the back door. It showed a fence and a yard gone flat and silver under frost. Beyond the fence, a line of trees made a black lid against the sky. In front of them stood a figure that could only be a man in rough clothes. Arms hung at its sides, the hat so low it looked like his eyes were supposed to be on the hat. There was a gap across the chest where straw poked out like rib hair. My stomach went cold, not from fear, from the detail I could not unsee. The scarecrow was not on a post. I kept telling myself that it could still be a person playing dress-up, maybe a mannequin, maybe a cruel joke. I reminded myself that cameras flatten distance. I reminded myself that night makes familiar things look wrong. I texted him another little piece because it made him go quiet. It's the third night, and I have a bad taste about the whole thing. He sends a picture every hour. The figure moved in small ways, a step, a turn. The arms didn't hold out like a cheap scarecrow. They hung, and then lifted, and then hung again. In one photo, the left hand rested on the top wire of the fence. In the next, both hands pressed into the fence, as if testing it. He wrote, I think he smiles under the sack. The stitches pull tight when he's close. I didn't answer that one. I set the phone face down and watched the ceiling and listened to the house settle. When I checked again, there were more messages. He had started to offer money. I will pay you. I can send proof. Please write 1 page. I need him to go back to the trees. I told him to put on the light and go to a hotel. He said he couldn't leave yet. He said he had tried. The words were strange and plain. He waits by the car now. I thought about going to pick him up myself, but I didn't know his address. I asked for it. He sent a pin that landed on a road I didn't recognize. Too far to drive, hundreds of miles away from my town. The name of a road looked like a surname. I'm not driving that far for a possible prank. I promised him one more short piece, and then I would be done. I wrote 8 sentences about a field emptying at dawn. I tried to make it gentle. I hit send. He replied with a single word. Thanks. That should have been the end of it. The next afternoon, he messaged again and said that he could still see the hat through the trees. He asked for a longer story because night would come. I didn't answer. I was tired of the way he felt like a weight in my pocket. I was tired of doing work for a stranger who would never be satisfied. I blocked him and put my phone on the table and went for a walk to clear my head. When I came back, there was 3 new messages waiting in my inbox. Same guy, same content. Write me a scarecrow story. I didn't even open them. I made dinner, I watched a dumb video. I turned my phone face down. I didn't sleep well. I dreamt of burlaps that tasted like dust on my tongue. The next morning, my screen was sacked with messages. They climbed over each other all the way to 2 in the morning. He's at the fence. He's in the yard. He's on the porch. Please, I can hear him at the glass. Please, right now. Please. Please. There was a voice message that began with a scrape like straw against wood and ended with a sound that made me pull my hair tight. It was small and excited. The soft squeal a child makes when a surprise lands. That's the only way I can describe it. I didn't press play again. Then, nothing. No new dot next to his name. The account went gray and stayed that way. I waited half a day before I felt brave enough to check one more time. Still gray. I told myself this was where it ends. I would tell myself he found sleep or help. I tried not to imagine him opening a door he should not have opened. I tried not to picture stitches spreading like a grin. I put my phone in a drawer and I went outside. There's this field behind my building. It's not mine. It belongs to the property next door. Grass and weeds and a low fence with a gate that sticks. In the day, it looks ordinary. At night, it's a flat, dark floor where anything could stand. I have looked out there 1,000 times without thinking. On the 3rd night of silence, I woke up thirsty and I went to the kitchen. When I passed by the black window, I stopped and stepped back. There was a shape at the far end of the field. It could have been one of the trash barrels the farmers use. It could have been a stump. It stood like a man who forgot where he was going. I told myself I was doing this to prove I was not scared. I turned on the porch light. The bulb hummed. The shape did not move. It was too far to be certain. I turned the light off and waited. The house ticked and sighed. I was about to laugh at myself when a faint rustle scraped along the fence. The next morning, something caught on my screen door. A strand of pale straw, about as long as my hand, pinched flat, as if someone pressed it under a steam. I don't have any hay here. I don't even have a doormat. I picked it off and carried it to the trash and stood over there a long time with my hands in the bin before I let go. I decided to send that guy a message. "Yeah, are you there?" No reply. The next day, I found a scrap of paper pinned to a railing on my porch. One sentence: "Do not mention me again." Written in a shaky scrawl, it looked like a pencil trace, strange and old. I ran back in and locked the back door, drew the curtain over the glass, and put a chair under the knob, like people do in old movies. I sat at the table and kept telling myself to breathe. I went back and scrolled through our old messages and read them again from the start. Something clicked then, in an ugly way. For how long did his own stories work? Did he get punished because I stopped writing? Is that thing here now? I opened a blank note. I put the cursor down and I didn't begin. I tried to be logical. If it was a prank, then someone was going to a lot of trouble to spook me for no reason. If it was a trick of the eye, then why did the straw on my door smell sweet and old like a bale left in a barn all winter? If it was nothing, then why did I keep hearing the faint brush of something dry touch the siding near the back steps? Not once, but twice, as if to remind me to count. It's full dark now. The chair under the knob wobbles if I bump it. I have every light in the house on like a child. I moved a heavy bookcase in front of the curtains because I could not stand the idea of that thin glass. I put a saucepan on the stove and I left the burner on. I told myself that if I needed a reason to go into the kitchen later, that would be the reason. I'm writing this at the table with my phone plugged in so the battery doesn't die. Every time I pause, I think I hear steps on the porch. I keep coming back to the voice message he sent me. The creak, the broom scrape, the small happy sounds at the end. I replayed it in my head this whole evening. I think that sound was not for me. I think it was for whatever stood on the other side of the glass. I know you're all waiting for the part where I look through the curtain and I tell you what I see. I'm not gonna look yet. I'm gonna fill the space with words because he said that helps. I will tell you what I will do when I cannot pretend I do not hear the steps. I will pick up the phone and I will write a small story that says the field is empty and the scarecrow is just an old clothes on the pole and the rope holds fast. I will write that the stitches are tight, but they only hold burlap to burlap. I will write that the hat is heavy with rain and the hat keeps his face turned down. I will write until my thumbs ache and my eyes sting. Out by the fence, I can hear something stiff catching on wire. I can hear that dry brush again. I can hear the porch boards deciding where to put a new creak. I'm not gonna look, and I'm not gonna keep the words moving. If you're reading this and a man asks you for a scarecrow story, don't be as kind as I was. Send help to the pin. Send help to the pin he sent me if you have the nerve. I don't know what you'll find there. I can hear strange noises outside again, and I'm not gonna check. I'm going to keep writing while I can, and I'm gonna give it a field full of nothing, and a night sky with no eyes and a hat that never lifts. I will stop when the noise is gone. I will stop when morning comes. I will stop when I'm sure there is no shadow against the curtains. I will stop when the creak moves away. I will stop when the straw stops touching the door.